Human beings have been able to adapt to very different climates around the world, but there are some questions about whether one country has a better climate than another. Below, we invite you to discover which distant places around the world have similar climatic conditions. When we refer to the climate of a certain place, we mean the conditions it experiences over the long term. The 5 factors taken into account are temperature, precipitation, atmospheric pressure, wind, and humidity. We often make the mistake of asking, for example, what will the weather be like tomorrow in my city? In reality, what changes from day to day is the weather. Climate is composed of the average atmospheric conditions over several decades. Among the factors that determine climate, we can identify 6 main ones: latitude, altitude, distance from the sea, ocean currents, relief and orientation, and wind direction. Thanks to the influence of these factors, we encounter different types of climates across the planet. The most commonly used classification is the one developed by Vladimir Köppen and named after him. It is based on observations of temperature, rainfall, and vegetation. To determine the climate of a place, we must know the average temperature and precipitation for each month of the year, as well as the precipitation threshold, that is, whether evaporation or precipitation predominates in that location. The first major classification divides climates into 5 main groups: tropical, dry, temperate, continental, and polar. Each group is assigned a capital letter. Within each of these groups, there are also subdivisions. For example, distinctions are made between cold and warm climates, or between those in which most of the rainfall occurs during winter and those in which it occurs during summer. Additional letters are then added to the initial classification to provide greater precision, completing the system. In this way, we can find places far apart on the planet that have surprisingly similar climatic conditions. Among tropical climates, for example, we can see that Guayaquil and Tegucigalpa have the same climate classification as Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. Manila, Medellin, and Rio de Janeiro also share similar climatic conditions. Within dry climates, Monterrey shares its classification with Dakar and Karachi in Pakistan. Mendoza does so with Tehran, the capital of Iran, while Ciudad Juarez has the same climate classification as Arequipa, Damascus, and Calama. Within temperate climates, we can first look at cities such as Buenos Aires, which shares its climate with other capitals, including Washington, D.C. and Tokyo. If we move toward lower temperatures, Ushuaia shares its climate classification with Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland. Asuncion shares a climate classification with 2 other very distant capitals, New Delhi and Seoul. Mexico City also has the same climate classification as several American cities, such as Guatemala City, San Jose, and La Paz, as well as distant cities such as Johannesburg and Addis Ababa. When we turn to Mediterranean climates, we do not only find places close to the Mediterranean Sea, such as Barcelona, Rome, or Tel Aviv, but also Los Angeles. Finally, within polar climates, we can highlight the tundra climate found in places such as Puerto Williams, Svalbard, and Nuuk, the capital of Greenland. Outside this classification, we are left with some places where the climate is much more difficult to find elsewhere, such as the alpine climate of La Rinconada or the icy climate that dominates almost the entire Antarctic region. Now we can ask ourselves whether one climate is better than another for human development. Multiple answers have been given to this question, many of them highly deterministic. It is clear that many factors influence the development of a community, and we cannot reduce everything to climate alone. However, we can try to identify some patterns. For example, several of the richest countries in the world are located at high latitudes, where it is generally colder, while many of the poorest countries are located in the equatorial zone. The author Robert Kaplan, in his book The Revenge of Geography, contributes an element to this discussion and argues that it is no coincidence that some of the poorest areas of the planet are often found where geography allows highly fertile soils and high population densities, but where economic growth is limited by the distance from ports and major transportation routes. Central India and inland Africa illustrate this particularly well. Kaplan also provides another perspective on how geography affects countries. Those that extend primarily from north to south, covering large differences in latitude, may be at a disadvantage compared with countries that have greater territorial extension from east to west. Why does this happen? Historically, technological diffusion tends to work more easily along similar latitudes, where climatic conditions are also more similar. Thus, an innovation developed for a particular crop, for example, can be applied more easily across a larger territory. The United States possesses large territories extending across similar latitudes and therefore has relatively similar climates over much of its territory. Chile, on the other hand, has an evident disproportion in the opposite direction, which causes it to contain extremely different climates. Although this is perhaps the most obvious example, Chile is not the only country with this characteristic. So, which territories have the greatest differences in latitude? To prepare the following ranking, we did not take into account exclaves or islands, but only the mainland territories. 10th place goes to Greenland, with more than 23 degrees of difference between its southern and northern extremes. It is followed by the United States with a slightly greater difference. Then come India, Australia, Canada, Argentina, and China, which exceeds 33 degrees of latitude between its southern and northern ends. The country with the greatest latitudinal extension by far is Brazil, with around 39 degrees between its southern and northern extremes. However, it ranks third in our ranking because it is located in both hemispheres. That is why, when we consider countries that cross the equator and count their total latitudinal span, the ranking changes. Second place goes to Chile, with a difference of more than 36 degrees between Arica and Cape Horn. First place, with a minimal advantage, goes to Russia, the largest country in the world. Although its north-south extension is impressive, its east-west dispersion is enormous. The difference in latitude across Russia is more than 4 times that of Chile. What do you think is the best climate for human development? Which city has the perfect climate? Leave us your comment below.